Alright, hello everyone. Now, if the quality on this video was a little crummy, like my very first video, that's because, this is being recorded on a webcam like that video, and oh well. What's more important is what I have to say. Now, this video is a response to the one known as the Schleg Daddy from the Off the Rope Show. Now, before I begin, I want to tell you right now, I mean no disrespect to the Schleg Daddy of Off the Rope Show. I think the guy is great, even when I disagree with the guy, no matter on what, no matter how stupid or asinine I think it is, he at least has a good opinion and good reason and can back it up. The guy's entertaining to watch. Again, I love watching him talk about pro wrestling, and if it wasn't for him, honestly, I would not know as much about the professional wrestling business as I know today. So, I mean, no disrespect when I say this, but this is something I just want to talk to him about and a few things I want to point out. Now, being that this video is in response to his Wrestlemania 17 review, you may be thinking I'm just here to talk about Wrestlemania 17. No, I'm here to talk about a few other small things besides that, but I am going to start off with Wrestlemania 17. Now, number two, you may be thinking, especially you, Schleg Daddy, that I'm going to be one of those YWC fan... I'm just doing my impression of Schleg Daddy when he impersonates people on the internet. But you may think I'm being one of those YWC fanboys with their flaming keyboard fingers of fire ready to leave angry comments on you. How dare you, Schleg Daddy? You ripping apart. This is the greatest motherfucking WrestleMania of all time. I'm not here to be like that. But I am here to be. I'm here to point out a few silly and just a few silly things, just a few things. Now, the first thing I want to point out is, well, the first thing I want to talk about is WrestleMania 17. Now, you all know that I am not one to, jump on the bandwagon or something. I mean, I got two videos on this channel talking about how Twisted Metal 3 is not only a great game, but it's one of the greatest video games of all time. And that's a game that is commonly hated. Don't need to go into any more detail about that. So you can easily tell I'm not one to, jump on a bandwagon, really. But I must admit, I am one of those people that does believe that WrestleMania 17 is not only one of the greatest WrestleManias, but one of the most badass pay-per-views of all time. And the reason is because the pay-per-view just leaves a good feeling in me. Yeah, I know, but it's just enjoyable to watch. And essentially that's what matters. It's enjoyable. There's a lot of things that go into making an enjoyable wrestling show, but it's just an enjoyable show. It's fun to watch. Now, as you can clearly see, I'm surely a mark for the Attitude Era. I'm surely, a mark for Stone Cold Steve Austin. But, so many things, no matter how ridiculous, were fun. And in my opinion, that's when also the strengths of the Attitude Era. Even when something wasn't that good, it was still fun to watch. And WrestleMania 17 is all around just fun. You can't just keep looking at it from this critical point of view. And I'm sure that everyone else is looking at it from a point of view of how much fun and enjoyment they have watching the show. And Schleg Daddy, you have stated on several occasions that it's alright, it's perfectly fine to have fun with professional wrestling. It doesn't always have to be so serious. It's okay to have fun. Now, I understand there were many serious things about the show in terms of the storylines, but again, people can go back and look at it and think, hey, it's a great show. I love it. Love the in-ring work because it's great. I love the fact that every single match on the card pretty much has a reason to be there, and I believe they didn't have Vince Russo at this point, and that's something he commonly did. So for the WWF to do that without him, good job for them. You had a lot of big names, tons of big names on this show. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, The Undertaker, Kane, Big Show, Chris Benoit, obviously before he went apeshit and killed his family, but I mean at the time, Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho, the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon. You even got Mick Foley on there, and this is after he retired, but you were able to put him in there as a special guest referee. You had so many big names. on on this show, and so many of them being main eventers. It's not like if you go back to say like WrestleMania 14, which I also believe is one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. It's not like if you go back to something like that, where between say like Austin and Rock, Austin's a main eventer, but Rock is still that mid carder. Here you got both of them as main eventer, as main eventers, and you got everyone built up to this great status. You got everyone at that point in their careers where they're these larger than life characters, these household names. And as I said, the matches were good. They all told okay to good stories, and every match had a reason to be on the card. Even that gimmick battle royal, which even people who jizz all over WrestleMania 17, there are plenty of them that'll say, yeah, that match was stupid. But hey, I had fun with it, and as you said, just like that, sometimes it's just okay and important to have fun with professional wrestling. But so many, what was it, and so many of the matches really were good matches, WrestleMania-worthy matches. Now, some of the ones in the beginning, like the Intercontinental title match or the six-man tag between the Right to Censor and Taz and the APA. Okay, but you know what? They were openers for the show, curtain jerkers. They were all right for what they were. Now, true, I'm not going to say every match on this card was that well. I mean, I will admit, China versus Ivory for the Women's Championship was disappointing. It should have been way more, but that's what happens, that's what happens when you put one of the greatest female wrestlers with one of the worst factions in wrestling history and make them nothing more than a stupid chicken shit heel. But that's beside the point. So even I can admit, there, not so good match on the card, but every other one, great and fun to go back and watch. And that's what matters. That's what's important. Now, what you're looking at it from, the point of view you're looking at it from, like, what this show represents and the long-term ramifications of what happened, during the time and after it. Sure, that's important to look at, but it's not as important to look at as the show itself. The reason the Schleg Daddy hates this show is because he thinks the show in of itself, for the most part, was pretty good. A lot of good matches, in-ring actions, storytelling and whatnot. But he hates the fact that it pretty much represents Vince McMahon's total domination of the wrestling business at that point, buying out WCW and then eventually buying out ECW and being the conclusion of the Monday Night Wars. He hates that this show basically represents that Vince McMahon basically said, hey, there's no one left to oppose me. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want no matter what you people think or want instead. And I understand. Austin's heel turn at the end, in your review, you claimed you don't give a shit whose idea it was. You don't give a shit if it was Vince's idea or Austin's idea. Now, Austin has gone on record several times saying it was his idea, that he felt they had to do something different with him. But then again, you said you just didn't care. But you know what? You just gotta look. I really don't think you could really say that just brings down the whole show. I mean, the match between Austin and Rock was still classic, still good. Told a great story, had great in-ring action. And honestly, no. I think it told a really good story. Shit on it all you want for Austin turning heel. Shit on it all you want for him joining Vince McMahon. But you got to admit, no, I don't care whether you admit or not. It was a great fucking in-ring. It was a great fucking in-ring story there. Seeing Austin desperately trying to put The Rock down, both of them in a bloody mess. The Rock barely able to get his shoulder up every time after stunner, after chair shot, after chair shot. Told one hell of a good story. Seeing Austin just look back at McMahon thinking, I want this guy to fucking stay down. That's one thing that makes this match good. When Austin turned heel. When. You know what? You know what? I'd say, it was fine. You know why? Because if you look closely at Austin when he was a heel, mainly when he was with the two-man power trip. Once Triple H went out, okay, fine, but mainly when he was with the two-man power trip. McMahon wasn't on screen as much with Austin. And not only that, Austin never really took orders from McMahon. McMahon was still afraid of him. I understand, though, how dare you take, the guy that everyone can get behind and have him join, the definition of corporate greed, evil. But again, look at everything else on the show. TLC 2, Undertaker versus Triple H. I just don't see how, again, oh, I hate what the show represents. Well, you know what? I understand it still represents Vince McMahon's total domination. But my God, you gotta look back at it and think it's kind of WCW and ECW's fault as well. I mean, WCW, from what I heard, really didn't have a good year in 2000, spent themselves into oblivion, and then because of that whole AOL Time Warner merger, since they weren't doing so good, and I forget, one of the companies during the merger didn't want anything to do with professional wrestling, you know, it's like, let's just drop WCW, and then Vince McMahon saw an opening. Then let's look at ECW. Paul Heyman wasn't too good with handling the money, and that's why ECW went tits up. From what I've heard, and that's from what I've gotten out of it. If I got something wrong, look, I'm sorry, and then I'm an idiot. But now I understand. Still, it's still Vince McMahon's domination of the business. That does not justify what he did at the show. He didn't have to. But again, it's you seem to blame it all on Vince McMahon, but he finally won, and at least he still gave us good matches, good storylines, and a lot of people don't seem to have a problem with it. You seem to be the only person with that problem, so I just don't fully get it. I think you're judging the show. Closing on WrestleMania 17, I think you're judging the show on things that aren't as significant as what matters going into the show. Like you say in your videos, that's just you. You don't care if other people see it otherwise. The way I see it, though, this match from top to bottom, great stories, great matches, great markout moments. You know what? WrestleMania 17 is a pleasure to watch, and I just wish you could see it. I just wish you could see it otherwise. And you know what? One more thing. You seem to say that a lot of people, not even in the wrestling business, go on to say how this is the best WrestleMania ever. It was the WWE that I could recall ever since I started watching WrestleMania that's been fapping all over WrestleMania 3. The WWE themselves. And I recall that's your favorite. So who cares about all these other people calling WrestleMania 17 the best? I don't think WrestleMania 3 is the best. Oh, sure, it is one of the most important WrestleManias, and it did lead to one of the most significant moments in wrestling history. I don't think it's the best though. But you seem to say that everyone, not only fans, but even in the wrestling business, seem to, or a lot of wrestling journalists seem to say that WrestleMania 17 is the greatest WrestleMania. But again, I've heard from the WWE, and you seem to be so against, their quote unquote propaganda. I've heard from the WWE that WrestleMania 3 is the WrestleMania that I've heard over the years, over the course of many years, the WWE talk about the most. So I don't see a reason for you to, complain so much that, you know, a lot of, a bunch of, like, wrestling journalists trotting out propaganda about WrestleMania 17. Everyone likes what, everyone has their opinion. You say 3's the greatest, I'll say 17's the greatest. 17 gives me more joy to watch. Now, I could end this on WrestleMania 17, but I want to point out something else. And this may make my video seem kind of dated, but it goes back to that video you made a while ago about how in-ring action is overrated. And I also want to point out about your constant bashing on Survivor Series 2001. Now, if I recall, back on the old Off the Rope Show channel, you and Mr. Rout once made a video about your top 10 favorite Survivor Series matches, and you put at number 2, if I recall, Team WWF versus Team Alliance at Survivor Series 2001. Now, according to you, or even in your review of that pay-per-view back on the original Off the Rope Show channel, you even said, and you've gone on to say, you hated the show, you hated what it stood for, you hated what the main event stood for, but the match itself was so damn good, you didn't care. You basically, according to your list back on the old Off the Rope Show channel, claimed it as the greatest traditional Survivor Series tag match, since your number 1 pick, from what I recall, was Stone Cold versus Triple H at Survivor Series 2000. So, what happened? I understand opinions change as time goes on, but again, you went on to say, that everyone overrates in-ring work and match quality. But look at you, a match that represented something you hated, from a pay-per-view you hated, that basically represented a storyline you despised. and you thought it to be one of one of the greatest and entertaining matches you've seen in the history of Survivor Series. So what? What happened? Did your just opinion of in-ring work, in-ring match quality? Did your opinion of match quality just change? I mean, what the hell? I mean, your recent videos on Survivor Series this past November, you went on to constantly shit on Survivor Series 2001 and even shit on the main event. When I recall, you used to say that that match was actually pretty damn good. So, what's the deal? Again, no disrespect, but you kind of came off as a hypocrite there. Again, maybe your opinion changed over time, but I just wanted to point that out. See if anyone else noticed that, and maybe if you noticed that. No disrespect, Schleg Daddy. I just wanted to point that out. The only other thing I want to mention is your video about how saying that Stone Cold Steve Austin is an all-time great, but not the all-time great. You kind of came off almost as an angry Hogan fanboy. And I'm sorry, yeah, you can say Hogan's better. I can understand. Your reasons are very legitimate and valid. But you throw in a bunch of statistics, and you know what? I could say Austin's better because I just like him more. I mean, I'm not just saying that because of his in-ring ability. I think he's also a much better character, and I think he could work a crowd better all around. And I mean, he was also better on the mic, and all around. Why I like Stone Cold Steve Austin more than Hulk Hogan, and why many other people too. No disrespect to Hogan, no disrespect to you, but another reason, me and probably a lot of people like Austin more than Hogan. Maybe we just found him a bit more entertaining, and that's why so many people consider him to be the all-time greatest. You can consider Hogan the all-time greatest. That's what you think, and again, your reasons were very legitimate. But again, you sort of just came off as an angry Hogan fanboy. You sort of came off as the internet people you always come to mock. You know, dear this with your flaming keyboard fingers of fire. So that's that. I'm sorry if this video's gone on too long. It looks like it kind of did, but I tried to talk as fast as I could without jumbling my words. But anyway, that's what I have to say about WrestleMania 17. I still say, you know what? It's an enjoyable pay-per-view, and in the end, the pros outweigh the cons. That's what I got to say about WrestleMania 17. That's what I got to say about what you said about Survivor Series 01 and match quality not being important. Because if you ask me, there are many of us that want to watch, good matches, and I do think it's one of the most important things. Storytelling and characters are also important too, just as important, but in-ring quality is at times just as important, if not more important. So that's what I got to say on that. And you know what? I've also said what I've got to say on you saying Hogan's better than Austin. Again, no disrespect. I hope I can end this on good terms with you, Schleg Daddy. I'm a fan of you. I'm a fan of Off the Rope Show. And I plan to keep watching your videos, but this is just what I had to say. Again, sorry to anyone and to you, Schleg Daddy, that this video had to go on too long. I know, video responses that go on this long are stupid, but hey. So that's all I gotta say. Thank you, everyone out there. If you feel free to subscribe, go ahead. The link to my other channel, Iron Gear Studios, is down below. Please check that one out. I care about that channel more than this. And have a good day, everyone. Oh yeah, an Austin 316 and WWF Attitude forever, everyone.